Hello, hello, Luminary. Welcome back to another episode of Star Powered Podcast. And today we'll be talking about Mercury Retrograde in Taurus, our first full Mercury Retrograde of 2023. And if you've been struggling with scarcity in all of its forms, this is the Mercury Retrograde for you. Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Hello, Luminary. I am so excited about Mercury retrogrades. You know me, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, I absolutely love Mercury retrogrades because it is time for us to reset, rethink, reboot, reorganize. And Mercury retrograde in Taurus, I'm calling this reorganizing your resources. Now, it's been super fun lately, just really supporting my clients and hearing all of the ways they've been breaking through different ways of scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset really comes up in our businesses through, taking on all of the clients because we fear that money is never going to come in, like even if like that client isn't for us, or scarcity mindset comes in when we are not charging what our value is. Scarcity mindset comes in when we instantly or offer a barter instead of being requested to get paid in cash in full. All these different ways that scarcity mindset comes in. Scarcity mindset really comes from how valuable we feel, how much worth and enoughness we feel. You know, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a change maker, if you're a consultant, if you're a leader, you're constantly negotiating and really asking for what you're worth. Right. And so, especially for us spiritual entrepreneurs, when we run our businesses, one of the pitfalls in the heroine's story is really understanding our worth and understanding our value. And this is where Mercury retrograde in Taurus comes in. We get to rethink all the themes around your resources and your resourcefulness. I've been seeing a lot of this with my clients lately, just more examples than I can put down here. But we know that we are still in that kind of eclipse season. And by the time you're listening to this, you might be listening to this on the eclipse day. And this Mercury retrograde, because it is in Taurus and the nodal axes are still in Taurus and Scorpio, the eclipse is in Aries and Libra, we can see the direct relationship in how we see our own leadership in terms of how we feel worthy, how we feel enough, and how we really feel we are contributing and adding value through our change-making work. Now, this Mercury retrograde, you are going to be asked to rethink themes around your resources and your resourcefulness, creating stability, sustainability, and maximizing what you already have instead of overspending your resources, right? Resources, money, time, emotional and spiritual energy, physical energy, and capacity. While resources are ultimately infinite and abundant, you don't want to mess around with the universe by wasting a drop. So, uncovering why you might be overspending or maybe not spending your resources, this Mercury retrograde will allow you to understand why you might be overspending or not spending enough, both from scarcity mindset, your resources. So, Mercury retrograde will ask you to rethink and reshift your mindset, especially when it comes to Taurian themes around value, worthiness, enoughness, and money mindset. Scarcity has a funny way of expressing in the outer world through undervaluing your own wisdom and contributions, leading to thin bank accounts, as well as overspending on things that are not values driven, leading to hoarding or even more scarcity. Now, because Taurus is fixed earth, stable and embodied, during this Mercury retrograde, you may feel like your body at times has way more clarity than your mind. Indeed, reconnect to the intelligence of your body and your second brain in your gut. These intelligences want a voice, allowing for your reset and reshifting. Check in to make sure you are listening to the wisdom that lives in your flesh and blood. Your goals over the next few weeks of this reset cycle is to reactivate your thoughts and actions that have felt stagnant and stuck by first slogging through the mental mud to uncover your scarcity mindset that causes you to devalue yourself, then saying no to the things that don't fit into your values in both your life and work. By the end of this reset, you'll clarify your values, your enoughness, your ability to ask for what you want and say no to what is not aligned. You'll set better boundaries and plans around all your resources, from money to capacity, by noticing all your overspending and your resource links. Say goodbye to scarcity mindset and hello to abundance thinking, because you know that by saying no to misaligned opportunities, you say yes to what is yours: peace and prosperity. So, in today's episode, I want to go over some of the astro notes of the astrology of this Mercury retrograde in Taurus and what makes it so significant. I'll go, of course, over the timeline, because even though Mercury will be going in reverse from April 21st through May 15th, we're already in the shadow zone, that place of the chart where Mercury will retrace. And after May 15th, Mercury will take still a few more weeks until it retraces its back its steps to get out of that shadow zone. So even though Mercury retrograde will be going retrograde for 23 days, this cycle will take a little bit longer. And so let's take a look. So we have this Mercury retrograde in Taurus, fixed Earth. And when you look at your chart, I want you to take a look at the area of your chart that contains Taurus of 5 degrees all the way to Taurus of 15 degrees. So these 10 degrees, just a teeny tiny slice in your natal chart, is the shadow zone of this Mercury retrograde, where Mercury will be making 3 passes, one as it moves direct, one as it moves backwards on April 21st, and one as it moves forward again on May 15th. Now, it's only 10 degrees that Mercury is traveling through this one little area in the sky, and taking 23 days for its retrograde motion. Now, you might have heard in previous episodes, I have a ton of other Mercury retrograde episodes where I talk about the process of the Mercury retrograde and how it has 3 passes and what it actually means from an astronomical perspective. Mercury isn't actually going backwards. It just looks like it's going backwards from our perspective here on Earth. But 10 degrees and 23 days, it's a smaller than average span that Mercury is traveling, and a longer than average amount of days that Mercury is going backwards. So it is slow moving. Now, Mercury doesn't necessarily like to move slow. You think about Mercury, and Mercury is quick-witted, it's fast, but oftentimes Mercury, especially when it's going through Pisces or going through Taurus, and also, of course, in its retrograde, is slow moving. Now, it is extra slow moving. So knowing this, if you're somebody that likes to rush, and if you're somebody that hates these Mercury retrogrades because you feel like you're constantly running into walls, well, hello, it's time to take your time, savor, and recreate sustainable growth in your work. Okay? No going fast. If you try to rush, guess what's going to happen? I'm not here to fear monger you, but the reason why we look at astrology is to really be able to understand how to work with the energy. 10 degrees, 23 days, go slow. Okay. Savor, take your time. You will be saving yourself headache and time in the long run. Another cool thing about this Mercury retrograde is that during its retrograde, Mercury will be connecting with the sun, as it always does, at its midway point. And it'll be connecting with the North Node at Taurus of 5 degrees at one of the bookends, and Uranus at 18 degrees at the other bookend. So, with Mercury connecting with all of these three Taurian energies during this retrograde cycle, asks you, what breakthroughs do you need in order to reach your soul's potential? Yes. And of course, these breakthroughs are very Taurian in nature. Breakthroughs around your worthiness, breakthroughs around your values, breakthroughs around your pricing, breakthroughs through just kind of your economic status. What breakthroughs do you need in order to reach your soul's potential? At the beginning of the retrograde, Mercury will be sextiling with Mars, who's in the early degrees of Cancer. Mars in Cancer is a fierce emotional protector. And Mercury in Taurus, that Cancer and that Taurus energy work so well together because the emotional support of an activation of Mars in Cancer will allow for great change in Taurian fixed Earth. And towards the end of the retrograde cycle, Saturn will now be sextiling that Taurian energy. Saturn in Pisces, another water sign, again sextiling the Taurian earth sign. So Mars asks, what opportunities are available to you now to turn your fear into motivation? Whereas Saturn asks, what will you now say no to that creates opportunities for your own crystallization and mastery? Don't you just love how all of the astrology really supports for your mastery and your own worthiness so that you can rethink and reorganize your resourcefulness? And so Mercury has been in the shadow zone since April 7th. And between April and 18th and April 21st, Mercury comes to a complete stop. That's the station before then Mercury shifts gears and goes into retrograde. Mercury will be in retrograde all the way through May 14th, where it'll stop again to go direct. Now, in between them is May 1st. On May Day, we have a full combustion of Mercury and the Sun. So that's the midway point of that Mercury retrograde. If I were you, I would definitely make space to savor that May Day and not pack your calendar too much and allow yourself to just savor in the beauty and abundance that is during May. And then all the way until June 1st, from May 14th through June 1st, Mercury will be going direct, but it'll be retracing the area of the shadow zone. And so, not until June 1st will we fully integrate all of the lessons of this recent Mercury retrograde. So, again, in the shadow zone, notice what's breaking down that requires resourcing. Are there things in your values? Are you looking for money? Are you looking for more energy? What are you measuring that you want to resource? Then, at that retrograde station around the 21st, you'll notice what fully needs reorganizing in all of your capacity. Again, your resources, money, time, energy. At that midpoint, what new reconsiderations are being fully illuminated where you must express your boundaries? What will you say no to so that you can bring in more yeses? When Mercury goes direct on the 14th of May, what plan of action will you take to reorganize your resources? As Mercury leaves the shadow zone on June 1st, full speed ahead again, time to implement your new resourcing plans. So, I want to offer you 6 things to do, along with some reflection questions for this Mercury retrograde in Taurus. I absolutely love these questions. So, the number one thing to do during this retrograde is to reshift sustainable resources. Remember that resources, I'm talking about money, time, energy, and capacity. What resources have you been wasting and why have you been wasting them? Now, no judgment, only curiosity so that you can bring awareness to how scarcity mindset keeps you in grabby mode that ultimately leads to resource waste. How can you maximize your resources once you understand the fear embodied in scarcity mindset that had control? And so, thinking about your resources, have you only been measuring money when maybe other things are of value? I notice that when we're thinking about projects and the clients that we keep or the clients that we work for, really starting to notice how Even if it's a good paying client, are you wasting more time and energy than that client is giving you in money? And it's okay to let go of these projects that no longer feel aligned. Number two thing that I want you to do this Mercury retrograde is reconsider how you are enough. So, the questions that go with this are: how are the ways that you are not taking up physical or energetic space? What are the worthiness feelings that come up? And whose stories are they? Are they from your family, society, culture, capitalism, colonization? Reflect on the inner oppressor that you've allowed to colonize your mind and see how you can take up your space. One of the things that is really comes up for me about how I am enough. I'm if you've ever met me or seen me, I'm not a small person. I'm not really a giant person either, but I'm really broad shouldered and I'm, a little chubby and things like that. And I have really, really bad posture. And this bad posture started when I was really little because my family would always constantly tell me these stories like, oh, you'd be so pretty if you just lost some weight. Oh, you could have been a model if you just lost some weight. All of these things about if I just lost some weight. And so a lot of times as I walk around, I try to hunch over my shoulders to not take up as much broad space because my shoulders are really, really broad. And only recently have I learned to stand up straight and really expand my chest and lift up my shoulders so that I can feel proud and take up more physical space. No more making myself physically or energetically small. So, what about you for your enoughness? How are you not taking up physical or energetic space in your life and your work? Number three thing that I'd like you to do during this Mercury retrograde is to regulate your mindset through embodiment. Yes, exactly. What tools and skill sets do you need to return to that allow you to calm your mind, body, and soul to increase your capacity to take aligned risk in your work? And so, what I mean by this is that you probably have a tool set or a skill set of what you used to do. Maybe this is meditating or journaling or taking spacious baths or smelling essential oils, like little habits that you had that you've gone away from. How can you return to these to regulate your mind, body, and soul with body first because of this Taurian energy? Remember, if you listen to the eclipse episode, I was talking about how I regulated my body in order to be able to open up a silly little email. If you didn't hear that story, go back and listen to it. There was some gems there. Number four, redefine wisdom in your body. Listen to how your body communicates to you. Where do you sense expansions? Where do you sense contractions? Where do you sense like those prickly, icky feelings? And where do you sense those freedom, expansive, yummy feelings? And other indications that your body is already sharing with you and communicating to you. Take a minute, take this whole time to really establish that relationship of listening to your body. I know for me, when I'm starting to feel stressed, I get a pit in my stomach. I know that like when things are really hard emotionally, I start to get a backache. And so now when I start to feel those things coming on, I'm like, oh, back, what are you trying to tell me? Ah, stand up and be independent. Oh, not in my stomach. Ooh, that means don't go there. That's not for you. So, how does your body speak to you? And how can you build that communication channel and trust your body to help you make decisions in your life and your work? Number five thing that I want you to do this Taurus Mercury retrograde is to reevaluate your value add and pricing. How are you adding value in the marketplace? What is the true result of transformation that you are giving to your people? And how can you share that value in how you communicate what you do? Is it time to adjust your pricing based on your clarified value add? So, what I mean is whether you are designing websites or creating marketing materials or an astrologer or a coach, trading your time for money is one way to do it. But what is the value of that transformation? Now, I know as an astrologer, there are many, many different price points that you can hire an astrologer to go for consulting. And I know that my individual one on one prices are definitely not the cheapest. And I know that there are people that are much more expensive, but I stand by my value. I know that when I guide people using astrology, even when you're here listening to these astrology podcasts, or if you're a member in my Star Powered Circle, that the value that you're getting from the way that I talk about astrology, the value that I put in through leadership and identity and reframing and validating what feels good in your work is so valuable that I am able to charge a premium, not because I'm grabby and want to make profit, but because I have a big team that I want to support and I value that quality and that teamwork. So, the more money that you make, the more that you get to invest in your value. And so, in order to make more money, is to know your value and what you're really contributing into the marketplace that goes beyond the the actual service or product that you're offering. Number 6, resource abundance thinking by saying no. Whew, this is a good one. And so, to what will you say no to create boundaries based on your values in your life and work? How can you notice scarcity mindset tricking you into accepting every opportunity? Now, remember, those are lies. That you need the money just this one time, even though everything else is a red flag, right? What will you begin to measure that will allow you to have sustainable growth, more time, more freedom, more of a sense of belonging, more true visibility? What are those feelings of peace that you want to cultivate? What is that marker of true abundance and success to you? Hint, remember, ask your moon, your Venus, and your second house cusp for your aligned values. Those are the true metrics that you need to be measuring to create and resource your abundant thinking. Everything that doesn't fit into your aligned values gets a firm no thank you. Beautiful. So, 6 big things that you can do over the next 23 days during this Mercury retrograde. Now, to personalize your Mercury retrograde, to get an essence of where in your life and your work you want to really hone into, first thing I want you to do is find that area of your chart between 5 and 15 degrees and notice what house or houses that area, those 10 degrees, occupy in your chart. Because that area of Taurus of 5 degrees to 15 degrees, that little 10-degree slice, shows you where you need to rethink and resource in your life and your work. Now, if you don't know how to read your natal chart for your work and your life, don't worry. I have a low-cost training called Written in the Stars. Head on over to starpowered.com/written in the stars, all one word, and get that low-cost training while you'll learn how to read your natal chart for your life and change making work. After you find that little slice of pie in your chart, I want you to pinpoint that 5-degree and that 15-degree mark of Taurus. Notice if you have any natal planets at that 5 or 15-degree mark. Maybe you have planets opposite or in square. Think of those, that 5 degrees of Taurus and that 15 degrees of Taurus, where Mercury stations retrogrades and stations direct. Think of those as little pressure points. Like if you've ever gone to acupuncture and the acupuncturist always knows the pressure point to be able to move energy and move chi along. Well, think of those retrograde points, the station points, as pressure points. And if you have natal planets being pinged by that, know that your natal planets want a voice in your Mercury retrograde on how you can reshift your resourcefulness. So, Let's take a look for personalizing your Mercury retrograde by the house. So number one, of course, again, look at which house contains Taurus of 5 degrees to 15 degrees. This is the area being pinged by Mercury to give you more specifics in where you need to refresh. And I'm going to read through these. If you don't know where this is and you just want to intuit, just take a listen and feel into what your body says yes to. So this Mercury retrograde in Taurus invites you to reconsider and resource your ... If you're an Aries or this 10 degrees is mostly in your second house, this is definitely about reconsidering and resourcing your values. If you're a Taurus or 5 to 15 degrees is mostly in your first house, this is where you're rethinking and resourcing your identity. If you're a Gemini or 5 to 15 degrees of Taurus is mostly in your 12th house, here you are reconsidering and resourcing your wisdom. If you're a Cancer and you have mostly 5 to 15 degrees of Taurus in the 11th house, you are rethinking and resourcing your social networks, the value of your friends. If you're a Leo or have Taurus of 5 to 15 degrees, mostly in your 10th house, you are rethinking and resourcing your offers. If you're a Virgo or can have mostly 10 to 15 degrees of Taurus in your 9th house, you are rethinking and resourcing your purpose. If you're a Libra or you have 5 to 15 degrees, mostly in the 8th house, you are rethinking and resourcing your healing. If you're a Scorpio or you have mostly those areas in the 7th house, you are rethinking and resourcing your soul customers and partnerships. If you're a Sagittarius or have that area mostly in the 6th house, this is all about rethinking, resourcing, and reconsidering your daily systems and wellness. If you're a Capricorn or you have that Taurus of 5 to 15 degrees, mostly in your 5th house, here you're rethinking and resourcing your creativity. If you're an Aquarius or have that Taurus of 5 to 15 degrees, mostly in the 4th house, we're talking about your home life and where you call home in your business. If you have, and finally, if you're a Pisces and you have that 5 to 15 degrees of Taurus, mostly in your 3rd house, here you're rethinking, reconsidering, and resourcing your message and your mindset. So my friends, I hope that this has served and you can see how this Mercury retrograde is fully supporting you in coming face to face with shifting your scarcity mindset into your abundance mindset. May you say goodbye to scarcity mindset and hello to abundance thinking, because you now know that by saying no to misaligned opportunities, you say yes to what is yours, peace and prosperity. All right, my friends, if you have questions, head on over to the free Facebook group, Star Powered Podcast. Leave me your questions there. I love answering your questions and communicating with you there. Talk to you soon. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.